Before we begin, if you enjoy forgotten knowledge, suppressed inventions, and you know the kind of history books don't like to talk about, subscribe now, because what you're about to hear isn't just a story, it's a survival formula, quietly erased. In the dead of winter, during World War II, when fuel was rationed, electricity unreliable, and entire cities froze in the dark, there was a candle, not a symbol, not a metaphor. A real candle, small, unassuming, that reportedly heated entire rooms. And then it vanished. History tells us wars are won with tanks, bombs, and strategy. But survival? Survival is quieter. It's fought in basements, in prisoner camps, in bombed-out apartments with no heat. During the Second World War, civilians across Europe faced winters that honestly killed more people than bombs ever did. Coal was gone. Wood was stripped. Electricity, if it existed, was intermittent. Yet buried in military manuals, resistance journals and survival notes, there are references to a single-flame heating method. A candle that didn't just glow, it warmed. Let's establish something important. A normal candle produces about 80 watts of heat. That's barely enough to warm your hands. So heating an entire room with one candle? Impossible, according to modern physics. And yet multiple independent accounts say the same thing. Soldiers, refugees, resistance engineers, rooms above freezing, hands thawed, water unfrozen, all from one flame. It wasn't marketed, it wasn't patented, and it wasn't meant for civilians. The candle was part of a field improvisation, used by resistance groups and special units who couldn't afford smoke, noise, or fuel trails. At its core, it used three things: thermal mass, airflow control, and radiant heat amplification. Simple, primitive, dangerously effective. The design didn't rely on burning more fuel. It relied on capturing heat we usually waste. Because a candle doesn't fail at producing heat. It fails at keeping it. Imagine this: a single candle placed beneath a stacked ceramic or clay structure, often flower pot shaped. The flame heats the inner chamber. The ceramic absorbs the energy, but instead of letting that heat escape upward, the structure forces hot air to circulate, trapping it, radiating it outward slowly, evenly. Not convection, not open flame heating. Radiant thermal storage, the same principle used in Roman hippocausts and modern high-efficiency stoves, just miniaturized, silent, invisible. Here's the psychological twist. Humans don't feel air temperature first. We feel radiant heat. Your skin absorbs infrared energy directly. So while the room's thermometer barely moves, your body feels warm. That illusion? It saves lives. A resistance notebook from Eastern Europe mentions one candle covered. 4 men slept without coats. British SOE notes reference a ceramic heat concentrator for winter sabotage missions. Even POW camps reportedly improvised versions using tin cans and mud. These weren't myths, they were field hacks. Ask yourself this: why don't we learn this in school? Why isn't it in survival manuals? Why does every modern article call it a myth or a life hack? Because it doesn't scale. It can't be industrialized. It doesn't sell fuel. It doesn't require infrastructure. And most importantly, it teaches people how to stay warm without dependence. We live, you know, in a system built on consumption. Heat comes from grids, from pipelines, from meters. A solution that works with just one candle, a few scrap materials, no noise and no smoke, well, it simply isn't profitable. So it fades. Now, important, and I really mean this. This method isn't magic. Used incorrectly, it can, well, produce carbon monoxide, crack ceramics, or even cause fires. Which is exactly why militaries documented it carefully. And, you know, civilians were never taught it properly. Knowledge without context is dangerous. But honestly, lost knowledge is worse. It's this. Human beings once knew how to stretch energy, to respect heat, to slow it, to reuse it. We didn't always waste 90% of what we burned. And when survival mattered most, we remembered. Energy shortages, grid failures, cold snaps. We think we're advanced, but one blackout reminds us how fragile comfort really is. And somewhere between Roman engineering and World War II desperation, we lost something. If a forgotten candle could warm a room, well, what else have we been taught to forget? What solutions disappeared not because they failed, but, you know, because they worked a bit too well? This wasn't a myth. It wasn't magic. It was really just applied understanding. And, you see, history is full of these quiet solutions, waiting for people curious enough to ask the wrong questions. If this kind of hidden knowledge matters to you, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next one.